What is going on, guys? So it's been a crazy little bit since I've been on here. Haven't put a video in a while, and in the time between then, I moved to Georgia, got married, graduated as a mechanical engineer, started a company making Jeep parts, which I'll be making videos about that in the very, very near future. Whole lot of stuff, but I'm back. Hopefully make stuff a little bit more frequently now, especially with all the new Jeep parts. But I want to kind of revisit a topic that I've done videos about, but some thoughts have changed. So for those of you who are new to the channel, I've got a two-door JK, 103-inch wheelbase, 40s, standard kind of stretch JK build, and about a little over 3 years ago, I did a Junkyard 1-ton swap. Did 05 plus Dana 60. I did a 99 to 07 14 bolt. I did auto lockers front and rear, Artec trusses all the way through, crossover steering with aluminum links, and about a year-ish ago I put hydro assist in it. And a lot of the stuff that I talked about before I have kind of changed my mind about as just things, as priorities change in a Jeep, and yeah. So one, I built it, my pure goal was capability and keeping a budget, which usually those come at the sheer expense of street ability and daily drivability. I still daily drove it for many years, but yeah, I definitely standards or opinion changed a little bit on what I like to drive, and yeah, I'm just gonna kind of go over the stuff I would do differently 3 years later, and the stuff I wouldn't do differently. Just kind of advice. So, kind of the big question surrounding axle swaps is Junkyard or crate. 2 years ago, I was very dead set. Junkyard is the way to go. You save so much money. It's great. You get all the capability, none of the cost. Just take some time. If I were to do it again, I would probably put crate axles in it, which may come as a surprise to some of you hearing me say that, but simple thing is I don't have the time I used to. The swap that took 2 to 3 months 2 years ago now would probably take me a year to finish. And knowing what I know now and all the stuff that failed, all the stuff I would do differently, if I were to do a Junkyard swap again, I would be spending $12,000, $13,000, not the $8,000 I spent the first time around. That gets you dangerously close to crate axle territory. I mean, 16, 17 gets you a set of crate axles. Now, when I say things I would do differently, stuff that broke, when I did it the first time around, I did it in the summer while I was in university. I pretty much had a pretty set budget. I need to keep it under $9,000, and I need to get back to school in August. I needed to drive it back to school in August because I didn't have a daily driver at the time. So, one thing that I would do differently is I just left the brakes alone. I did not factor that in my costs. I just used the existing brakes. Over the next 2 years, all 4 of the brake calipers seized up. At the beginning I put pads around, but all 4 of the calipers seized up, and I ended up putting brakes on all 4 corners. And a lot of the times it was in a pinch and needing to put crappy auto parts store brakes. Oh. Had a weird notification there. I had to put cheap brakes. So if I were to do it again, I would have just put some power stop brakes around on all 4 corners. That would have been probably another $1,000. Another thing I would definitely do differently is, and this I've always kind of felt this way about, is the automatic locker in the rear. I would not have done that, especially with a manual. I can't speak to the automatic because my biggest complaint with it, I imagine an automatic would help with, just because the amount of like slop and play in an automatic locker. Maybe a torque converter kind of helps keep that tighter, but I can't just row through gears and have fun driving the Jeep with automatic locker. I just can't. So if I were to do it again, I'd definitely put an ARB. That's $1,200 for the ARB. It's a couple $100 for the compressor. Then it's the wiring and all this and that. At the time, I did the automatic partially because I was waiting for Aux to release their locker, but it looks like that's kind of more of a pipe dream at this point. So short list is I want to put an ARB in the rear. And after having done the automatic, then to pull all that out, reset everything, redo everything, which I already had to do once because just things that happen with the Junkyard axle. The first time around, the guy who set up my gears, I also kind of changed the yoke. Maybe I messed it up, but I had to rebuild the whole rear end. That was $600-700 gone. So it's just all these things that over 3 years have just been happening and happening and happening and happening. And it's because they're a set of axles that came out of an old truck. There's going to be finicky things. There's so many things you're doing at once, and you're bound to mess some of it up. Yeah. So a lot of stuff I would have done differently. You know, would have just pushed me closer and closer and closer to that crate axle price tag. And even if I have everything all perfect, even if I get it all right first try, even if I get deals on everything, it's still a crate axle. You don't have it's still a junkyard axle. I still don't have the ground clearance some other axles. Like if I were to do it again, I probably would just done a Dana 60, Dana 70 combo. I don't know, maybe I would have still done the 14 bolt, but it would have like just a full, like the new castings from East Coast Gear Supply and Fusion have more ground clearance. You don't have to deal with the leaking from the shave. That's another thing. My 14 bolt, I've never got the thing to stop leaking just because, I don't know, there must have been a nick or something. And no matter how many pinion seals I put, it always leaks the pinion. The front 60s definitely have more ground clearance if you go crate. But all in all, I don't regret doing the junkyard axles. It was a really good experience. It's just, yeah, there's stuff I would have done differently. If I went crate, I don't think I would go with Kingpin style. I've been really happy with my ball joint setup. Eventually, I do want to do eliminators in it, but I have really liked the ball joint setup. One thing that I did kind of go back and forth on throughout the years is the hubs in the front. When I got the axle, I first put mile marker hubs in. Hated them. Don't do those. They're terrible. They're a pain in the butt to turn. They grind up. Then eventually they just stop working. And then I did drive slugs because I figured, I have a daily. I'm not going to drive the Jeep on the street. And if I had a selectable locker up front, those drive slugs would still be in the Jeep. But the automatic locker, it would rarely just, it was weird. But I was fine. It wasn't that bad until I started getting a little axle leak in the front. And I'm like, I can't. So I just pulled the center out and then started driving the Jeep on the street more, taking it to the beach. Light stuff that I still want four-wheel drive for. So I got the factory forward locking hubs again. Put those in there. Those turn great. They're super easy to lock and unlock. They're just not as strong. So at River Rock a few weeks ago, I broke one. I just threw the drive slug in to finish wheeling for the day. But then at Gulch's, I beat on it pretty hard and didn't break any. So as of now, that's kind of the formula I'm using, just forward locking hubs for when I drive for 99% of the time, and I keep the slugs to back up. Eventually, I will. Don't know if I'll do the Warrens. I might just put the RCV inserts in the Fords. But the steering, I don't regret doing the crossover steering. Keep on saying don't recommend. It's the complete opposite of what I'm trying to say. I don't regret doing Heim style steering. It's a little bit of lube once a month and it keeps them quiet. I don't regret that at all. It's super beefy. It works. I definitely super happy I went with aluminum because I bashed that tie rod into so much and it's still doing good. But yeah, super happy with that. I do want to do a completely different video on my hydro assist setup because I kind of mismatched parts, and I'm super happy with how that ended up after many rounds of trial and error. If you can't do hydro assist at first, you're fine. The Artec arms just put the drag link on the outer arm. You're going to lose radius, but you can still steer the tires just fine, still wheel it just fine. Actually, I think I already had a video on my hydro assist setup. Yeah, but yeah. So all of that to kind of update what my thoughts were on doing junkyard axles. I don't regret them. I learned a lot. If you want to learn, I still recommend it. Just if you're doing it as a financial decision, you're not going to get much benefit. But yeah, that's about all I've got for you guys today, and I'll see you guys on the next one.